My name is Emily, I'm 32, and at my own birthday dinner, my sister announced she was pregnant with my husband's baby. Before I tell you how I revealed a single truth that shattered their entire world, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. They thought they were in control. Standing there in the middle of the ivory room, the nicest restaurant I'd ever been to, with all my friends and family watching. My sister, Lauren, had her hand placed dramatically on her small bump. My husband, Mark, had his hand on her shoulder, a picture of smug solidarity. "We're a family now," Lauren sneered, the words designed to be a dagger to my heart. She expected me to crumble, to cry, to make a scene. That's what I was always supposed to do. I was the emotional one, the fragile one. Mark was looking at me with that fake, pitying expression he'd perfected over the years. The whole room held its breath, waiting for the explosion. But it never came. I just stayed silent. I took a slow sip of my Pinot Noir, letting the silence stretch until it was uncomfortable for everyone but me. Then, I raised my glass. A small smile played on my lips. They thought this was their play. They had no idea I wrote the script. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. Lauren was the golden child. When she wanted the $1,000 princess dress for prom, my parents cashed in a savings bond. When I needed help with a textbook for a college honors class, I got a lecture on getting a part-time job. I was the one who fixed things, the one who was steady, reliable, and therefore, taken for granted. They mistook my stability for a lack of passion, my quietness for weakness. That was their first mistake. The ground fell out from under me 6 weeks before that birthday dinner. It was a Tuesday. I picked up the shared family iPad to look up a recipe and saw an email notification. It was from Lauren, to Mark. The subject line was just 2 words, our plan. My blood ran cold. I knew I shouldn't look. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. But I had to. I opened it. It was all there. The affair, laid out in nauseating detail. But it was the end of the email that made me physically ill. A plan to announce the pregnancy at my birthday dinner. To use the public humiliation to force me into a quick, quiet divorce where they could take everything. Lauren wrote, "She'll be too broken to fight back." She never fights back. I dropped the iPad. The crack it made on the tile floor echoed the cracking in my own chest. I stumbled to the bathroom and locked the door, pressing my back against it as if to hold the world out. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just opened my mouth and let out the silent, ragged gasp as the life I thought I had evaporated in front of my eyes. That was the only moment of weakness I allowed myself. One silent scream. Then, the grief hardened into something cold and sharp. It hardened into rage. I picked up my phone and called my best friend, Jessica. "Jess," I said, my voice steady. "It's happened." "What?" "No." "Emily, where are you?" Her voice was laced with panic. "At home," I said. "But I'm not going to cry. I'm going to burn it all down." My mind raced, connecting dots I hadn't even realized were there. The affair was a symptom. The disease was the lies. And the biggest lie of all had started over a year ago. We'd been trying for a baby for years. It was the one thing I wanted more than anything. Finally, after my endless pleading, Mark agreed to get tested. He went to a clinic, Northwood, by himself. He came home that night and put on the performance of a lifetime. He held me while I cried, stroking my hair, telling me it wasn't my fault. The doctor said, "It's not me, Em," he'd whispered, his voice thick with fake sympathy. He said I'm fine. It must be you. He let me carry that burden for a year. He let me believe I was broken. That was a cruelty I couldn't even process. But now, his lie was about to become his undoing. "Jess," I said over the phone a few days later, "I need the real results from Northwood Clinic. From a year ago. That's protected by HIPAA. It's a fortress, she said. Jessica was a paralegal, she knew the rules. I'm his wife, I said, my voice hard. There has to be a key to that fortress. There was. It took 2 weeks of phone calls, signed consent forms I found in his old files, and a bit of clever social engineering, but we got it. An email landed in my inbox with a PDF attachment. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely click the mouse. The report loaded. I scrolled past the medical jargon to the summary at the bottom. Patient exhibits zero sperm motility. Diagnosis, azoospermia. Sterile. The word just hung there on the screen. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a monster. The lie was so clean, so total, it made me wonder, what else was he lying about? That thought became an obsession. If he could lie about that, he could lie about anything. My mind went back to the day he'd supposedly paid for those expensive tests. It cost thousands, he'd said. Specialist consultations. I pulled up our joint bank statements from that month. There was no payment to Northwood Clinic. Not a dime. But there was a cash withdrawal. A big one. $20,000. My gut clenched. This wasn't just about an affair anymore. I hired a private investigator the next day. A quiet, older man who looked more like a librarian than a detective. I don't care if he's cheating, I told him, sliding a folder across his desk. I know he is. I need you to follow the money. Find out where that $20,000 went, and any other money that doesn't add up. He delivered 2 weeks later. It was worse than I could have imagined. The PI had traced the money to a shell account Mark had set up. From there, it was a steady stream of payments to Lauren. For her rent, her car, her designer bags. But the final piece was the kill shot. A single transfer of $200,000 from Mark's corporate expense account, embezzled money, to a title company. It was the down payment for a new house. A house that was now in my mother's name. It wasn't a betrayal. It was a conspiracy. My own husband, my own sister, and my own mother. And in my purse, I held the two things that would bring it all crashing down. His medical report and the PI's financial report. And that brings us back to the dinner. The silence in the restaurant was deafening after Lauren's announcement. I stood up, holding my wine glass. To family, I said, my voice ringing with a clarity that surprised even me. And to the truth. I reached into my purse and pulled out a single, folded piece of paper. I slid it across the polished mahogany table to Mark. He looked at it, confused. "What's this?" he asked, his voice wary. "That," I said, making sure to speak loud enough for the whole table to hear, "is the truth. From Northwood Clinic. From last year." I watched the color drain from his face. He knew instantly. Lauren looked from his face to mine, her triumphant smirk finally faltering. "The biggest lie wasn't you sleeping with my sister, Mark," I said, my voice like ice. "It was you ever pretending you could be a father." A collective gasp went through the room. Lauren's face, which had been glowing with victory moments before, crumpled into a mask of pure horror. Her eyes darted to Mark, then down to her own stomach, the reality of my words crashing down on her. Mark started to stammer, you can't." But I wasn't finished. I turned my gaze to my mother, who was staring at me, mouth agape. "And Mom," I said, my voice softening into something even more dangerous. "That house is lovely. But when Mark's company finishes their fraud investigation into the missing $200,000, they're going to want it back." That was it. The second punch. Chaos erupted. Mark lunged across the table, his face a contorted mess of rage and panic. "You witch," he screamed. Restaurant security was on him in a second, two large men hauling him away from the table as he thrashed and cursed. The perfect ending to my marriage. A public, humiliating, and well-deserved implosion. In the middle of the chaos, as my mother started sobbing and Lauren just sat there, catatonic, I calmly picked up my purse. Jessica was already by my side, a protective hand on my back. I started to walk away. Lauren, snapping out of her stupor, grabbed my arm. Her grip was desperate. "Emily, please," she whimpered. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back into her terrified eyes. I pulled my arm free. My final words to her weren't angry. They were just final. "I'd save your please," I said, my voice flat. "And I'd call Ryan. He deserves to know he's going to be a dad." Then I turned and walked out of that restaurant with Jessica. The heavy oak doors swung shut behind me, muffling the sounds of the life I was leaving behind. For the first time in a long time, I could breathe. The next 6 months were a blur of lawyers and paperwork. But it was a clean burn. I'm in a pottery studio now, in a different part of the city. 6 months later. My hands are covered in wet clay, and I'm laughing. A real, deep laugh. Jessica is here with me, trying and failing to center a lump of clay on her own wheel. "So, the divorce is final?" she asks, flicking a bit of clay at me. "As of Tuesday," I say, smiling. His company settled. Handsomely. Turns out they really prefer not to have their dirty laundry aired in a public court case. My phone buzzes on the table beside me. I wipe my hands and pick it up. It's a news alert from a local station. The headline reads, "Former finance executive Mark Peterson sentenced to 5 years for embezzlement." There's a grainy picture of him being led away in handcuffs. I stare at it for a long moment. I feel nothing. No joy, no satisfaction. Just quiet. He's a chapter in a book I've already finished reading. I put the phone face down on the table and turn back to my pottery wheel. "Now," I say to Jessica, spinning the wheel again. "Where were we?" I have a small balcony in my new apartment. It overlooks the lake. On it, I have a single orchid I rescued from the clearance rack at a garden store. It was battered and its flowers were gone, but I saw the life still in it. I've been nursing it back to health. This morning, I saw a new bud. For a long time, I thought I was the one who was broken, the one who couldn't grow. But I wasn't broken. I was just planted in the wrong garden. Thank you all so much for listening to my story. It took a long time to heal, and I'm still a work in progress. I want to ask you guys, have you ever had a moment that felt like an ending, but turned out to be a new beginning? Let me know in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd give this video a like and subscribe for more stories. It really helps the channel out. See you in the next one.